millennials. Right. Now, why? Why do you think, yeah, anyone who would like to answer? Why do you think is it important to have an idea of where we come from in this, we're using the infographic as a guide? Maybe we can proceed to the next slide or to the next part. That is something you can actually take home with you and reflect on, or maybe that could be answered as I continue with my discussion. Okay. The caveat. So the problem with generations, it's Western centric. The classification is too Western centric. It can lead to generalization and stereotyping. There's no reliable research to support claims that different generations have different learning preferences. So baby boomers are perceived to enjoy lectures, reading books, value feedback, and reflection. That may not always be true, you know? Gen X are deemed to be independent, self-directed, who enjoy a combination of lectures and group work. Gen Z, on the other hand, prefer a constructivist learning environment like tech-based education. I think most Gen Z are or would. Gen Y prefer to be actively engaged, prefer digital texts. Listening to lectures is equated to torture. Now, I did the same exercise. I asked the similar-ish exercise. I asked my MEd students how would they characterize their previous teachers who belong to the different generations. And these were some of the things that we came up with. It was just a wholesome exercise. We did not intend to box certain people or a certain generation. It was mainly to find, some things, or to kind of confront some things or some issues so that we can clarify and move on to the point of teaching or making learning more interesting to the modern learner. So we did that exercise so that we can kind of look back on our previous experiences, learning experiences with the previous teachers, with our previous teachers, and also to find out where we can actually situate ourselves in, and how or what adjustments can we make in order to, again, make learning more excitable for the modern learner. And these are the things that they came up with. So the baby boomers, according to them, tend to be authoritarian, strict or discipline-oriented, bookish, structure-oriented, but structure or habit or routine can also be beneficial, to learners, predictable or follows a pattern. The millennials, this was how they characterized the millennials, but I don't think this is true to me. So see, there's the caveat already. Achievement oriented for them. Masters, like for example, the millennials tend to have certain goals and really fulfill or realize them. For example, lagi ko na goals like masters at 30 years old or doctor at 30 years old. And then structured, still structured like the baby boomers. And those, the millennials were the ones who are fond of saying, kami sa una, kami noon, hindi gaya nyo ngayon, something like that. And then the Gen Z, they tend to be progressive. One thing that they found disadvantageous was the low frustration tolerance of the kids. They tend to be merit conscious and advocacy minded or advocacy oriented. And I found advocacy oriented to be as something that's true to a lot of Gen Z people. They would like to fight for the environment or advocate for the environment. minimalism, or some of the what else? They would advocate for protection of the environment using friendly alternatives to harmful chemicals and whatever. So yes, so that was the point, okay, of doing that very simple exercise. Now, I'd like you to meet the modern learner. So this was according to Berson by Deloitte. So the modern learner is overwhelmed, distracted, impatient. Yeah. And the the situations and the reasons are listed there. But they also are untethered, on demand, collaborative, and empowered. So the question now is, as teachers to modern learners in the classroom, what are some of the things that we can do to capitalize on their strengths and somehow help them to minimize their weaknesses? So hopefully the next few slides will give you some ideas, or will help you get to some answers. But first, let me elaborate on the characteristics of the modern learner. So modern learners tend to process data faster. They make quick decisions about what's important to them. 49% of page views in 4 seconds. They tend to be highly visual. They read approximately 28% of the words on a web page. Photo and content can lead to a 48 increase in page views. They use several devices. And this is true to some of my colleagues even. They're using 2 screens. I am very faithful to my 1 screen. In the last 3 years, 500% more people use multiple devices simultaneously. And the average person switches devices 21 times per hour. 90% of people use multiple screens to complete a task. Smartphones are the main device for media interaction. They have shorter attention span, decreased, and according to the study, it decreased from 12 seconds to 8 seconds between the 2000 and 2013. So that's a 33% drop. They get easily distracted. 80% of the teachers in the West claim this. The average office workers check their email inbox 30% to 40%, 30 times to 40 times per hour. I don't know if I fall short or I'm guilty of this. Expects frequent rewards, seeks instant gratification. Now, some implications for education. So what can the teacher do? Where can the teacher adjust? And how do we create more possibilities? So use of micro-learning, presenting the lessons in mini lessons or using mini lectures, micro modules, short videos, etc. What I can give as an example was using videos of a particular grammar lesson. I think it was a video on models. I gave it to the kids, to the grade 10 kids. And after it, I gave them, because I was I was not in class then. So it was an exercise that I left them. And because they're responsible and they're self-directed enough, so I interested them to watch the video, which actually they did. And what I found out was that even if there was no discussion from the teacher, because I was not in school at that time, they were still able to answer the follow-up exercise basing only on the video. So um, it was something. Of course, I did the discussion after, disclaimer, in the next time that I saw them. But it was, it was a little of an aha moment for me, like, so that is when, or that kind of told me that giving them videos, for example, short ones, can actually help them or prod them to get on with their tasks, even if the teacher is not there. Use of mobile learning or use of mobile devices in the classroom to find information. I've also done this one, and it was welcomed with open arms. They like to do it. Sometimes even difficult words. And if context clues are not enough to kind of um, if context clues are not enough to help the students figure out what the word is, like we were talking about African literature once, and the article that we were reading mentioned Soto voice. So, and even if we use all the context clues present in the reading material, it still would not give us the correct answer. So they asked to use their mobile phone, and they got the information that they wanted. Use of visuals. Yes. Use of personalized learning. Um, Personalized learning. I approach this one in a micro way. Um, because the word personalized learning can be daunting to hear, you know. Um, so what I do is uh, I I've had an experience with this one when I was in Japan, not when I was here in the Philippines, but I would welcome, some personalized learning because my class size was very small. So in one in one of the unit tests, I suppose, or I think all the other students um I varied the content of the test. So with all the other students, the I gave them something else. And for this one who was really keen on architecture, visual art, because he was really keen on architecture and visual art, what I gave him or what I did was to supplement the written text that I gave with all the rest of the students. So because it was in an international school, so there's a lot of freedom in the way that you would, give the lessons to the learners. So with the rest of the class, they were doing a written text analysis. With him, I differentiated it by supplementing or by replacing the written text with a visual text, and I made him analyze it. So that was how I approached personalized learning. And but then again, my class was made up of 8 students only. And then use of point of need learning. I think we call this one incidental learning. And we are no stranger to this. Learning that is relevant for the learner at that specific moment. So this one can scream, I need to know more about that. So for example, if something, I don't think I need to give an example because I think we have an idea what this is. But if something, for example, is um, if somebody commits a mistake, for example, and then we wanted to elaborate on it. So, and then the main lesson, or when the main lesson was kind of pushed to the side in order to give way or to pave the way for this new thing that was needed at that specific moment, then that is incidental learning or point of need learning. And then use of collaborative activities or tasks and use of online resources. Uh, more implications for teaching and learning incorporate multiple modalities. So use images, videos, infographics, charts, and graphs, physical objects. So yeah, I was very happy when I was bringing with me realia from Japan, and I exposed it to my grade 8, 10, 11 students, and it was welcomed with oohs and ahs, because then I realized that it was something that either piqued their interest, it was something that they wanted. Um, Match modality to content or task. If you're teaching art, use lots of visuals. If you're teaching learners how to bake a cake, get them to bake that cake. And then some learning strategies to focus on for the modern learner, which could be helpful. Spaced practice. Learn more and get better results, reduce time to study in the future, and schedule short study sessions. Leave 2 to 3 days in between. The next one is wait, yeah, with spaced practice, KUAN, just to connect, have you heard of the Pomodoro technique? The Pomodoro technique is the Pomodoro technique involves 20 minutes work, focused work, and then give yourself some 5 minutes to do something else, and then another 20 minutes more focused work. So that could be a way to attack um, content in the classroom. 20 minutes, focus on something. Give them 2 minutes breathing time or 1 minute thinking time. Ah, yes. Thinking time, that was an EFL strategy that I also learned from Japan. Like when students would go back to their silent, awkward selves, that's when my Japanese partner teacher would say, let's give them 30 seconds thinking time. Let's give them 1 minute thinking time. With the UP students or with the high school students, it still works, like 2 minutes thinking time, 3 minutes thinking time. Like for it can also work after posing a difficult question on one of the slides and then asking for answers, and then there's like some silence. So that would be my cue to give thinking time. Interleaving. So this is switching topics when studying to highlight similarities and contrasts. Switching makes links between ideas, makes mind nimble, and changing order in the next study session. Elaboration. Ask, explain, and connect. How and why. This is more on this is related to critical thinking, prodding the learners to, elaborate by asking more whys and what, more hows and whys. And this is not something new as well. It just comes with a different name. Concrete examples. To demonstrate, explain, understand, look for real life examples. Dual coding, combining text with visual and presenting that to the learner for better information absorption. Okay, so some takeaways. We are down to the last few slides. Some takeaways. For some of these takeaways, I am telling them more to myself than actually telling them to you. I mean that these are some of the things that I would remind myself to do, you know? Number one, know your learners and learn about what makes them tick. So that is kind of more for me than for you, or maybe you do need it as well. Prod, push, and provoke, but do not antagonize. Especially with generation, I'm not sure, Generation Z. Some of the comments that I've heard were they have very low frustration tolerance, but this is not so they would not be offended. Number two is not for them to not be offended, but it is to um wait. Yeah, it is do not antagonize but provoke them, because after all, learning is not just about engaging them, but it is also about provoking them, like giving them more thought-provoking questions and really getting to the point of things, getting the bottom line. Yeah. And I think that it would also be, they would welcome it. I assume they would welcome it if you would ask them more about their more about their advocacies, what they believe in, etc., etc. And that can be in both speaking and writing. Emphasize the importance of making mistakes. Mastery, emphasize mastery as well as outlets of creativity. I have this one last video to show you, and this video is called How Schools Kill Creativity by Sir Ken Robinson. And I personally like it because it is thought-provoking and it is also very timely. And then the other one, which you might want to know or which you might want to watch after, is How to Escape Education's Death Valley by Sir Ken Robinson as well. Yes, so emphasize, let me go back to number 3. Emphasize the importance of making mistakes. What is happening?
And the girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said,
and
she was at the back drawing, and the teacher said, this little girl hardly ever paid attention. And in this drawing lesson, she did. And the teacher was fascinated. She went over to her and she said, "What are you drawing?" And the girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "But nobody knows what God looks like." And the girl said, "They will in a minute." When my son was 4 in England, actually he was 4 everywhere, to be honest. I mean, for being strict about it, wherever he went, he was 4 that year. But he was in the Nativity play. Do you remember the story? No, it was big. It was a big story. Mel Gibson did the sequel. You may have seen it. I don't know. It was Nativity 2. But James got the part of Joseph, which we were thrilled about. We consider this to be one of the lead parts. We had the place crammed full of agents and T-shirts, you know. James Robinson is Joseph. He didn't have to speak, but do you know the bit where the 3 kings come in? They come in bearing gifts, and they bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This really happened. We're sitting there, and they, I think, just went out of sequence. Because we talked to the little boy afterwards and said, you know, "Are you okay with that?" And they said, "Yeah, why was that wrong?" They just switched. I think that was it. Anyway, the 3 boys came in, little 4-year-olds with tea towels on their heads, and they put these boxes down. The first boy said, "I bring you gold." And the second boy said, "I bring you myrrh." And the third boy said, "Frank sent this." What these things have in common is that kids will take a chance. You know, if they don't know, they'll have a go. Am I right? They're not frightened of being wrong. Now, I don't mean to say that being wrong is the same thing as being creative. What we do know is, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. If you're not prepared to be wrong. And by the time they get to be adults, most kids have lost that capacity. They have become frightened of being wrong. And we run our companies this, by the way. We stigmatize mistakes. And we're now running national education systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it. So why is this? I lived in Stratford-on-Avon until about 5 years ago. In fact, we moved from Stratford to Los Angeles. So you can imagine what a seamless transition, you know, this was from LA. Actually, we lived in a place called Snitterfield, just outside Stratford, which is where Shakespeare's father was born. Are you struck by a new thought? I was. You don't think of Shakespeare having a father, do you? Do you? Because you don't think of Shakespeare being a child. Do you? Shakespeare being 7. I never thought of it. I mean, he was 7 at some point. He was in somebody's English class, wasn't he? Do you understand? Really? How annoying would that be? You know? Must try harder. The, being sent to bed by his dad, to Shakespeare, go to bed now, to William Shakespeare, and put the pencil down, and stop speaking like that. It's confusing everybody.
Yeah, the point is we could be having learners like William Shakespeare in the classroom, but we do not immediately realize their potential or their capacity for creativity because they just do not appear, they just do not behave ordinarily. Yeah, and so to end this part and to end the talk, I would like to bring Sir Ken Robinson again. Yes, to this part here.
I believe our only hope for the future is to adopt a new conception of human ecology, one in which we start to reconstitute our conception of the richness of human capacity. Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we've strip mined the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children. There was a wonderful quote by Jonas Salk, who said, if all the insects were to disappear from the earth, within 50 years, all life on earth would end. If all human beings disappeared from the earth, within 50 years, all forms of life would flourish. And he's right. What TED celebrates is the gift of the human imagination. We have to be careful now that we use this gift wisely and that we avert some of the scenarios that we've talked about. And the only way we'll do it is by seeing our creative capacities for the richness they are and seeing our children for the hope that they are. And our task is to educate their whole being so they can face this future. By the way, we may not see this future, but they will. And our job is to help them make something of it. Thank you very much.
Bravo. Here. Karen.
Oh, wait, this is not the one. Okay, so that's the end of my talk that's the end of my sharing for this afternoon. So thank you so much for joining.
Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Lauro. So we will give Miss Lauro a little bit of time to
question answer.
yeah. While waiting for the questions, we'll give Miss Lauro a little bit of time to rest and also, get back to the question and answer energy. Before that, I got a lot of things I actually able to learn. One is that I myself has a Philippine English accent.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, and I was often being called out before when speaking in presentations, international ones, for example, or even national ones, that my accent is very hard. But because I have friends from Malaysia and Singapore, and they really have their own accents, and they are proud of it.
Yeah.
And they are even using it in their television dramas. So I was like, why should I be afraid to use my own English, my kind of English, which is my Philippine English? Even if I was able to find myself in different situations where everyone else has their different kinds of English, I know that I can still understand them given that I am exposed to them. And one of the best things that happened to me is that way back when I was in high school and in elementary, I did not necessarily know English. My education was far off during in elementary, that when in high school I was starting to learn English, like
Yes.
a grade, grade 1 to 6 student. And during that time also as well, there is no abundance of videos to get. There are only
Mm.
books. I learned from books. And then when I got to
True.
college, when technology was a little bit better, I learned about YouTube, and I heard people from different countries um, talking to me in English via YouTube. And that's where my ability to speak English actually improved. So the takeaways, the koans for me before is that, is it okay for me to really use this kind of English that I have? And it was answered right now that, koan, pwede ba nga ako ang English, or my English would be the normal English that I use in every day? And the answer is yes. I'm a student of language as well, and every day is a learning experience. And whether I use English or not, and when I use English to communicate to people who uses English, there is no boundary. It's just that it's the best way we can communicate, and we have to have a mutual understanding and respect with the kind of Englishes that we have, because globally, English can be anything. English can be adapted towards your culture, and you have to be confident with that. And I really like the idea that by exploring the different Englishes in the different parts of Asia, for example, or the different parts of the world, for example, you can give your students a bit more push or encourage of using their own kind of English, their own accent, their own speaking, giving them the confidence to use them to express themselves. That's one. And of course, Miss Lauro highlighted a lot of strategies to fulfill that particular, or to achieve that particular goal. And it was being stated here in a very, very systematic manner. And I do hope everyone was able to catch up on it, because even if I lack sleep right now, I was actually listening. So, yes. So, do we have a question? Let's see. Miss Laura, you are ready?
Yeah. I am
Okay.
typing up a question for one. I mean, typing up an answer for one question.
Since we can accommodate 2 questions, maybe we can have this in a you can answer this orally. Is that okay?
Yes. Are we looking at the same question, like culture-wise? Kanisia? Okay, so
For
culture-wise.
number 1, what are your thoughts about this, Miss Lauro?
This
Culture-wise and
one.
economic-wise, do you think our country would benefit more if PH schools treat English as a foreign language or as a secondary language, or is there a middle ground?
I think it's not a case of which one is which. You know, it shouldn't be between whether it should be FL or SL, because questions like that can be limiting, or no, sorry, questions like that can lead to answers that are quite limiting. So I think what would be good is to get ideas from both, and then see what fits the profile of the Filipino learner, see what's effective, what could get them to really use the language, what could get them to communicate more, and then keep using that. Another thing I think to consider, though this one was discouraged by Sir Ken Robinson in one of his talks, is to focus, sorry, I was going to say focus both on mastery as well as creativity. Yeah, mastery and creativity, especially because English is not really our native language. So we should we still have this obligation to our learners to teach them the best way that we can, and to push them, to push them further, and to get ideas and what else, strategies that would make them learn better. Kana siguro more than, yes, more than more than, standardizations, or what you call this one, more than emphasizing so much on kanang bitawng mga education testing results
Yes, yes.
or something. Yes.
The
So
technicalities of it.
yeah. So going back to the question, not so much a choice between FL or SL, but bridging or getting ideas from both, and not treating them as if they're two different rivers. Unya, KUAN. And I think what would help is making the learner the center. I had been told about this one even before, pero kana laging di ta maminaw. But then it's like coming back to me now, and it's also, I was also blessed to be exposed to different contexts, or contexts where I was able to teach English, and so I was able to like get different things and bring them together. Because this time around, like I would like to give the stage more for the learner. I would like to learn I would like to know more about my learner, and the like. It's more like a personal promise na sad ba to myself nga this time around, manato, gone were the days when I was the strict English teacher. I would like to be, I do not want to be the cool English teacher, but I would like be, to be more of a participant to my learners' learning. Yeah.
Okay, so you got there, the answer of Miss Laura. So before we proceed to the next, I think one of the highlights of Miss Laura's answer is that whether you would treat it as SL or FL, you need to understand what are the benefits of treating it as is, and make your students the center of it all. So that's one of the key highlights that I realized about what she said. Okay, so next question. And this question said, I know that this is not part of the lecture, but it's really piqued my interest that Ma'am Laura taught in Japan. How did you motivate your students to learn or study English given the cultural barrier?
Not all of them are interested to study English. So that's real talk. Okay. Now, some of them used it as a way to get them to university, or to the university that they want. Because Japan also has this very standardized kay sila og approach to English. They see it more as a tool to get them to where they want to be. Not like us nga murag gikuan siya nato ba. Not like us nga murag
Gidawat
nga
nato
ano,
as our
gidawat,
language as well.
or yes, or accept siya nato. And that's why we have the Philippine English variety, where we have used English to serve us, or to nga magamit na to ang English in order to name our cultural realities. Sila di pa man kaayo. They're still very hesitant, and they have a lot of apprehensions in learning English. So motivate them, KUAN, using Japanese and English in the classroom. And that was also one education practice. Oh, that was also one teaching practice that I did not quite subscribe to when I was teaching English in the Philippines. Pero with the help of KUAN, pero with them, it's like a totally different setting. So with the help of the Japanese teacher of English, so the idea gets bridged to the student. Like what I would say, I was allowed to speak English, or I was allowed to teach the students all in English. They would not, I do not know any Japanese at all. So ang gibuhat sa Japanese teacher of English was to translate the most important points, but not all the time, because they would like their learners to be independent and said. So translanguaging, is that what it's called? So kana siya. So nairaos in the classroom.
Translanguaging is very important. Also in my classes in biology, translanguaging is very important. There are some words in biology, for example, that are too technical and some words that are hard
Mm,
to understand to students. So we have to trans-language it and
true.
make it more reachable or achievable by the students. And later on, they were able to use those words in their own explanation of the phenomenon. So translanguaging is really good as well. As for me, as for
Yeah.
a biology teacher, I can attest to that. Okay, so somehow there are some similarities because we're talking about language, and English is a language that we primarily used in science. And
Mm,
I'm so happy that I was able to learn English also. I know my English isn't that perfect. I still have grammatical errors for some reason. But the most important thing is that I can connect and communicate with my students. And that is maybe one of the main goals of teaching English to students, that when they go to the global economic market or when they go to the global regions, they are able to communicate to other individuals through English. So
true.
I think those are the answers for our two questions. I really had a great time learning with Miss Lauro, and I do hope
Oh,
everyone
thank
else
you.
here in our session right now, we have about 150 individuals with us right now. So yeah, I do hope everyone also had a great time learning. I was so amazed with the way you speak because I really comprehended a lot. I mean, you're for some people, they are thinking that you might be slowing it down, but you are actually fast enough, and you are being clear about what you're saying, and it was very systematic, that even if I'm not an English teacher, I actually understood what you're saying.
Aw,
So
thank you so
thank you so
much.
much for that. Okay, so question and answer portion is now closing. Thank you everyone for giving us some of your questions. If you have more questions, you can send it out to the LRC email if you really need to do so. And also connect with us in TLRC. Okay, so um, we are now awarding the certificate of appreciation to our speakers. Sir Nan,
Yes.
this part, this floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Jara, and also thank you so much, Miss Maricris, for an insightful and also an informative session. On behalf of the UP Cebu Teaching and Learning Resource Center and also UP Cebu Master of Education Program, we extend our heartfelt gratitude and congratulations for this successful event. So, as what you can see right now on the screen, this certificate of appreciation, one moment, because I'm using a dual screen. So, okay. So, certificate of appreciation is rewarded to Miss Mary Chris B. Lauro for sharing her invaluable time and expertise as speaker in the webinar on bridging the EFL and ESL gap, exploring possibilities in the classroom, given this 27th day of June 2024 at the University of the Philippines, Cebu, signed by yours truly and also Professor Kane P. Bundok, our MEd program coordinator. Thank you so much, Miss Laro, and congratulations.
Congratulations
Thank
and thank you.
you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sir Nan. And also, I'll give you a rest now, Miss Lauro. Please still stay with us
Mhm.
um for other sessions that we have. I think there's a lot of sessions coming in, Sir Nan, am I right? Okay.
Yes, yes, we
So
have.
I think most of our audience will be able to like get the links later on. I do know there are exciting sessions coming in, and this is around every Wednesday or Thursday if I'm not mistaken. So kindly make sure you tune in to the FB page of the Teaching and Learning Resource Center or the uh, YouTube channel of TLRC. Okay, now we go ahead for our evaluation. Now for evaluation, kindly check if you have encoded the correct format and spelling of your name, and you have encoded your correct email address always. Make sure to click send me a copy of my responses before submitting. And normally it takes less than 3 minutes to receive your e-certificates, but sometimes if you don't receive it within that time, send an email to lrc.upcebu@up.edu.ph. Kindly use this QR code or this link over here that we can find in the chat box. Okay. So again, a gentle reminder, our evaluation only lasts for about 10 minutes, so make sure you get into it and evaluate. Also, help us improve and give us more idea what should be talking next. Okay, through our evaluation. I'm also excited what we'll be talking next. Okay, I'm excited about this one because this is more of education, and education is a field I really love talking about. Okay. Kindly check on the Zoom link can be found in the chat box. It was already posted by Sir Nand. If you are not using the link in the chat box, kindly take a picture or take a video. Use your camera, take a photo of the QR code over here, and you will be directly linked to the evaluation form. Okay.
Yep. Also, Miss Jara, I also would like to invite everyone to join um, our webinar session in upcoming weeks, because next week, since it's our graduation week, so I also advise everyone to take some rest. So in the following week, yeah, in the following week, we'll be talking about media information and literacy, introduction to fact checking techniques, and it will be delivered us by Miss Annie Fe Gallardo. Annie Fe Paris, nagbabalita,
TV pa.
ABS-CBN.
ABS-CBN.
Yes, po. Yeah, she will
Okay,
be the
so
one. Yeah, she will be the
it's
one who
gonna be
will deliver this
exciting.
stuff. Yes, correct.
Okay, so don't forget about that. We have very exciting session for you in the next KUAN session.
Go on
Okay,
series.
but
Yeah.
maybe not next week. So stay tuned for the announcements of the links and the dates. Okay,
We
make sure
also
to
have
follow our TLRC FB page.
yes, we also have here Miss Jera, our UP professors. We also have Sir Kenneth Gallardo, Sir Al Vilbar. We also have I think we also have Miss Annie here with us. Miss Erica as well, and also Madame Baltazar. They're here with us.
Okay, Sir Sir Nan, may I ask for the YouTube live stream? Do we